Hello, everyone. Happy Friday.
Yes, happy Friday and happy first week of March. Hopefully y'all are doing warmer than we are. We got a ice and snowstorm here in Omaha this week, and it's snowed this morning and 75 on Monday. So, as they say, if you don't like the weather in the Midwest, stick around 5 minutes and it'll change.
Yep. It keeps things from getting boring, that's for sure.
Yeah. We are going to go ahead and first, before I go over deals, we are not going to be here next week. I'm going to be out of town next Friday, so we will be back. What's today? The 7th. So we will be back March the 21st. Yes, it does. Ice is no good, no fun. But that aside, we'll be back on the 21st, and so just nothing next week. So we'll go over deals. Same as the last few weeks. YouTube TV, $13 off a month for the first 6 months. That's deal's good through the end of this month. And they also have a 3-week free trial currently. Fubo tweaked their deals a touch, so it's $20 off a month for both Essential and Elite. DirecTV Stream is still offering $25 off a month for the first 3 months on Choice and Ultimate. So they're more expensive in plans. And then a deal that just got announced today is the Disney plus Hulu bundle is going to be available for $2.99 for 4 months. So a savings of $32, only good for 4 months, not for a year like their typical Black Friday deal. And then they're saying this is good for new and eligible returning customers. They really didn't state who the eligible part is. And Sling is, as usual, half off for the first month and 1 month of the free unlimited DVR. And Roku, Fire devices, those deals appear to be on their way out. Not quite as good as they have been the last few weeks, but some are still on sale. So all that all way, thank you everyone for joining, and glad to see y'all in the chat. So the first news we're going to go over this week is Fubo. We got some updates on their first skinny bundle that they're calling it. I don't know, I would call it skinny, but the first skinny bundle that's going to be coming out. They announced, so just as a bit of a background, they announced their Q4 earnings last Friday. I believe it was after our live stream or right before. Came in with a promising 1.67 million subscribers, up from 1.61 in Q3 and 1.45 in Q2. The revenue was up 8% from the previous year, so just shy of 435 million. And there really wasn't a whole lot of update on its combining with Hulu Live, but we did get some updates on the future of their skinny bundles, and it really seems like they may really only go for the sports aspect. So this is by way of The Desk, reported it. Pretty insightful article, so read it if you can. They reported that details have emerged with its first major skinny bundle, which is tentatively being called Sports and Broadcasting. Incredibly creative. It appears to be a little cheaper than the DirecTV and Comcast skinny bundle sports offerings. And it's speculated that it's going to be in the $50 to $60 a month range, so $10 to $20 cheaper than those two respective bundles. They are planning on launching it in Q3, so right before the NFL season. So probably in about 5 or 6 months from now. And they've already signed agreements with Fox and Disney to offer their channels through the new package. They're also anticipating that they are going to have deals with Comcast and Paramount to include their respective networks too. The bundle will offer network-owned local stations from all 4 major local networks, as well as national sports-inclusive networks like ESPN, Fox Sports 1, Golf Channel, CBS Sports Network. The Desk is also reporting that non-sports channels like Fox News and Fox Business Network are also going to be included in the bundle, as Fox is still requiring pay TV providers to bundle anything related to their news or business in with their sports. And also included is ESPN Plus will be included, as well as the ESPN Direct to Consumer app that everyone's calling flagship for the moment, will also be included at no additional cost. So that's a nice value add. Fubo is still working to bring third-party broadcast affiliates like those owned by Nexstar Media, Sinclair, Scripps, Tegna, and Gray Media to the package. And they're saying that the desk is also reporting that the launch of the skinny bundle does not depend on Fubo and Disney receiving regulatory approval. So it's not dependent on them merging together completely, and it will continue to offer, Fubo that is, will continue to offer its main plans for the time being. But if the combination is approved, it may only offer the skinny bundle and then push people to Hulu Live. Noticeably missing in this is any mention of RSNs. So there's been no mention of that. DirecTV, if you remember correctly, that DirecTV is going to be adding RSNs to their plan, but available as a add-on. And as of the last few days, it's only been a small handful of RSNs have been added to DirecTV. And so it'll be interesting to see if Fubo/Disney will offer RSNs at all, or if they'll offer them as an add-on like DirecTV is doing. And really, if they're wanting to compete with DirecTV and try and pull off people, that would be a nice value add. But at the same time, RSNs are in the neighborhood of $13, $14 to upwards of $20 if you get multiples. So it really begs a few questions like, will we see other bundles from Fubo? Every indication I'm seeing is likely would just be sports, with that point of pushing people to Hulu Live if someone really wants a true cable replacement. And then also the other issue is Turner Networks. They still don't have the Turner Networks. Will Disney work their magic and try and get Turner Networks over to Fubo? That is a glaring piece that would be missing. And we would argue that it would obviously be of value. So it'll be fascinating to see how that works out. And some great questions in the chat.
And, we have a story coming up a little later about Fox. That kind of gets at Matthew's question there
about
whether or not linear pay TV will disappear in the future, and do we think these skinny bundles are going to help linear TV survive?
Yeah, and there was actually there was a conference that David Zaslav spoke at this week that I read about some on Twitter, and he was sort of bemoaning the fact that linear is struggling at best, is how he put it. And he noted that what they are going to try and do is take some content from HBO and Max and put it on the Turner Networks to try and, I guess, prop up, for lack of a better term, some of their linear networks. Possibly, that could make it more attractive since they're wanting to spin those off. And really, it argues what kind of content are they going to put over there, because not all HBO Max content would fit on a linear network unless there was some pretty significant editing. And so I think I think the bundling is really going to tell what's going to happen with linear. I really think that, I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Nicole.
Yeah, I think I don't know, the thought that I keep coming back to is that the streaming tech just broke something that maybe wasn't broken to begin with, and as evidenced by the way it's sort of clunkily being put back together, is going to end up looking a lot like cable and linear pay TV did before I just think they're going to hang on as long as they can, and maybe they'll look at, are there enough people that get cable as opposed to the internet service, because if it's overwhelmingly internet service, then that's where the content is going to go. So
yeah,
anyway, let's take a look at our next story, and this is on YouTube TV. So layout changes are coming soon. This is a site, The Information, reported that YouTube TV is making some changes to its interface to try to get at that challenge that we know many streamers have of, we just want, kind of like I was just saying with cable, we want everything we want to watch in one convenient place, and pay just one bill, right? So YouTube TV is trying to get that with some changes. The Information reported that the YouTube TV app is going to start integrating shows and movies from subscription video on demand streaming services into its homepage. So if you have subscriptions to things like Max, Paramount Plus, Peacock, etc., you would start seeing those in the YouTube TV interface, like on the home screen. So this would be similar to what like Apple TV and Amazon Prime are already doing. This is just getting YouTube TV a little bit closer. Now, it's important to note this does not mean that it's going to be free. It's not like they're adding the content in at no cost. It's just trying to make it so that you can find it on your homepage as opposed to being hidden within the movies and TVs tab on YouTube. Yeah, just aggregating it, really. And it'll be, YouTube TV is going to be doing this through its primetime channels ecosystem, which we've talked about that. That's how you can get Sunday Ticket. If you
don't want YouTube TV.
Don't want YouTube TV, you do it through primetime channels. It's not clear yet if it will be just services you're subscribed to, or if they're going to include ads for other services that try to get you to sign up. We assume that's what we should expect there, and then but we'll wait and see that. And then as an aside, just a little more YouTube news. YouTube Premium Lite news came out about that. I think this is probably especially really interesting. Well, let me say the price first. $7.99 a month. It's supposed to let users watch most videos, that's YouTube's claim, ad-free. So music and music videos would still have ads, and this offers a savings of $6 versus the standard premium plan. I know our kids love YouTube. That's what if you said they could have one thing, that would be it. And I was thinking about them when this came out and thought that they would appreciate being able to watch some of their favorite creators without having to sit through ads. So
but we're not going to spend the money.
Well, no, we're not. But it just made me think that it'll be interesting to see what the audience for this is. And maybe there are enough people who would do that. And I wonder how it's going to impact those creators who get paid, by ads. Is YouTube just taking money that they would have been sharing with those creators and taking it for themselves to not show ads? Just kind of something interesting. And then just back to the YouTube TV homepage a little bit. Just wanted to note that and show you guys this other article here. It'll make it look a little more like Netflix. I think that's kind of also what YouTube TV is going for here. And as I said, to compete with Amazon and Apple. And I think it's just going to be interesting for us to see, does this really satisfy what streamers want, that aggregation, access everything in just one place? Is it going to deliver the simplicity that people want? We'll see.
That's really the big key, I think, in being able to access YouTube within the YouTube TV interface, being able to access their other subscriptions that they have.
And then, like, how will this affect, like, Hulu Live or DirecTV Stream? If YouTube TV goes this route, do they try to do that? We know Disney Plus is trying to integrate all of its properties to one home screen, but it's putting it over in Disney Plus. So, it's just interesting to see.
And one other thing is that, Prime Video and Apple TV Plus are already sort of ahead of YouTube TV in this.
That's true.
And so this is really, what we as streamers are wanting, as opposed to having to go to 5 different platforms to get the content that you want. And so returning back to what we had with cable and having everything all in one place. So they killed it, and then they're trying to resuscitate it and go back because they realize people like the convenience.
Right. Maybe they shouldn't have broken it. Maybe it wasn't broken to begin with.
Well,
other than being too expensive.
Yes. And I believe there was a question in there further back in the chat about, will YouTube TV continue to dominate? I think that they're going to have to come up with something cheaper for people to sign up for, because at $83 a month, why pay for that when there's only a small handful of channels that you want? And another comment about when will people just start moving to fast services. I think we're going to continue to see more of that. Like with Roku having the sports that they're having, Fox putting the movement they are behind Tubi and how they intertwine that with their own app. I think we're going to continue to see that, especially as people are trying to save money. Spending $80+ a month, especially if you're not watching much of it, doesn't make much sense.
And it's interesting in the chat comments on, would YouTube TV have a fast service because YouTube's free? And that is an interesting question, because it is different content, and maybe YouTube TV has thought for a long time they don't need fast channels because they have YouTube. Yeah. So I'm not sure. I guess it would depend on the value that they think it's adding.
Yeah. I would argue that it would be beneficial for them, but they have YouTube, so so moving on to our next topic, is we got some updates this week on the Fox streaming app, which we've been discussing the last few weeks. And last week we discussed how CEO Lachlan Murdoch said that they had planned on having the service out by the end of the year. That has changed over the last week. Deadline reported that Murdoch spoke at a Morgan Stanley media conference this week, and he is now saying the platform should be out by the beginning of football season, which is not surprising. So we should expect to see it in August or September, roughly about 5 months from now. Peter Distad, the CEO of the now defunct Venue Sports joint sports venture, will be heading it. And he says that he anticipates, Murdoch that is, says he anticipates modest numbers for subscribers and hoping it to reach mid-single digit millions for numbers. But he continued to be incredibly cautious about his desire not to cannibalize their linear networks, going so far as to not even advertise the app on their linear channels, and that it's purely meant to grab those who are trying to cut the cord or who have never subscribed to cable. Hollywood Reporter has a quote from Murdoch saying, "We're not trying to attack cable. In a perfect world, we wouldn't have any traditional cable bundle subscriber switch to our DTC. Now, if they do, we're going to be made whole. But that's not our intent. Our intent is to really go after the people that are not currently in the system." And it's clear that Fox is trying to walk the line of not harming its linear business with this. And while we don't have details yet on the pricing or the name of the app, there was a question in there. I would anticipate somewhere in the $10 to $20 range, hopefully lower. But with them including sports in there, that's going to be a big draw. But I would anticipate somewhere in that 10 to 20 range, maybe around 15. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully it's a little bit lower. But I've not seen any analysts come out giving any kind of speculation of what they will be.
So that's a good thought, because if you think of the Peacock and Paramount Plus higher end plans that include your local, NBC or CBS station feed, those are in that range. Yeah. So that seems reasonable.
Yeah, so we do know it's going to include everything under the Fox umbrella. The one caveat in that is that there's been nothing reported about if it's going to include local Fox stations. If it does, I would anticipate that price to be on the higher end of that range I was sort of speculating on. but there's been no indication on whether or not it's going to include that. And what would be fascinating to see, as we've discussed in recent weeks, is if it were to choose to bundle, be as an add-on with Flagship or with some other services like Peacock, for example. That would be a fairly compelling sports option, or even Peacock and Paramount Plus. So,
yeah. Okay, well, you game show trivia fans out there, our next story is for you. We did talk about this several weeks ago, but just wanted to bring it back up again and share the latest on this ongoing news story. So Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune are both still really popular shows. Many people like to watch them. They get about 7 million viewers nightly for both shows. But as we said before, it's really difficult to stream it if you don't have cable or a premium live TV streaming service. So Jeopardy showrunner Michael Davies has said in a recent interview that, quote, Sony has secured the ability to sell next day streaming rights for the main show starting in the fall. And the other interesting note around this is that CBS and Sony have been embroiled in a legal dispute over Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune. The New York Times reported that Sony is now soliciting bids from major media and tech companies for the streaming rights to new episodes of the two series for the first time. And from this article I've got on screen, it says, quote, the initial streaming rights to Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune would begin in September and could be for 3 years. During that time, the company that wins the rights would be able to stream new episodes the day after they air on syndicated television. Exclusive same-day rights to new episodes are available starting in September of 2028, which just feels like forever away to me, when all pre-existing syndication deals expire. The Times is also reporting that Sony is negotiating with several streaming platforms and that they believe Sony will have a deal within the next few weeks. And then a Sony exec clarified that the distribution rights are entirely separate from the syndication rights that CBS has. So what's the bottom line here? Well, there's obviously value to have these shows since they generated a combined $175 million in national syndication advertising revenue. So that's why it's, companies are fighting for it and why it matters. It could grow even more once streaming gets in the equation, because you got to think that's a large chunk of an audience that's not even able to really watch it conveniently.
Yeah. And Paul has a good question on if Amazon will be a good home for those game shows. I mean, they already air what's his name? Colin Jost's. He has a.
Oh, right.
It's a spin-off, I guess, of.
Shoot, I can't think of the name of it.
I can't think of the name of it.
You can tell we watch a lot of game show TV.
But it could be, especially if they continue to keep Prime Video included as a membership perk of having a Prime subscription. It really could be. Mm-hmm. So next is MLB rights updates. Major League Baseball, the season is soon upon us, with the first games being in Tokyo on the 18th, so about a week and a half, and the season getting into full swing. If you see what I did there.
Nice little sports metaphor.
On the 27th. So about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, CNBC came out saying that ESPN and MLB will no longer be partners following this season, so the 25 season, as they mutually agreed to mutually opt out of their broadcast agreement. And MLB has long been just had challenges with viewing, with games spread out across ESPN, RSNs, moving into streaming. And MLB's credit, coverage on ESPN has slowed over the past several years as it focuses on football. Yeah, you're correct, Paul. It's Pop Culture Jeopardy. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. And so, worse yet, ESPN had been paying $550 million a year to show the games, and ESPN said it was only open to re-upping its agreement if they could slash at least several $100s from the agreement. Obviously, Major League Baseball didn't like that. Many MLB teams, particularly small market teams, get much of their revenue from RSNs. Those are also struggling, which we've discussed. So this week, according to Wall Street Journal, quote, though 22 of the 30 MLB teams now offer a DTC streaming package, local blackouts remain a scourge for fans in some markets who have cut the cord, unquote. And MLB TV isn't an option either here, as it's only for out-of-market teams. And this has led many to wonder where baseball fans could go to watch their favorite team. There has been some speculation that Comcast could be interested in bidding for the sport, as it would allow them to effectively have a premium Sunday night sports offering for a vast majority of the year when you combine that with Sunday Night Football. And Front Office Sports reported that numerous streamers are interested in getting the rights to the sport, saying that companies have included Comcast, like I mentioned, Netflix, and Amazon. But that talks are focused on 2028 again, when all of baseball's national rights go on the block, versus just encompassing the package of what ESPN opted out of. And Comcast would make a lot of sense. I grew up watching baseball on NBC. From 47, they had it from 1947 to 89 and 94 to 2000. So we've received questions from viewers on affordable ways to watch games this year. ESPN Plus, so really a package of ESPN Plus, which has streams 4 to 6 games a week, though still has blackout issues. Apple TV Plus, which has Friday night games without a blackout, and the Roku channel, which has a free game on Sunday mornings beginning in mid-May. So would get you about $25-ish. And Max is another option here, but as we discussed last week, as of April 1st, the Bleacher Report Sports add-on is only available to the higher end plans, so you would need to pay to get that. And so it'll be interesting to see if MLB is able to get the money they think they can. And as an aside, and interestingly, Wall Street Journal reported that Flagship may offer a bundle that includes the FanDuel Sports networks. If only that came earlier for teams that are reliant on RSNs. And sadly, this is just baseball going the course of NFL, NBA, of games going to be spread out across multiple apps. And MLB TV is staying at $150 a year, though T-Mobile is offering it for free for eligible customers the last week of this month, the 25th to the 31st. James brings up a good point about, I've read the same thing. I've read a number of articles saying that both CBS and Fox could lose Sunday afternoon games, and from what I understand, what I've read, analysts are thinking that it's Netflix is really the one at play here, and the NFL, no shocker at all, wanting to maximize what they can get for their product. And the key to watching there is Netflix, I think. If they could get Sunday afternoon games, that would be pretty significant for the platform.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how all that would impact, the antitrust violation lawsuits that came up, and really kind of stopped Venue from launching. There is the issue of you need to make content available free on local networks.
Yeah.
So I just don't know how that would play out if they put all. It'd be interesting, something to consider.
And that's a great point. And part in that is the NFL Sunday Ticket class action lawsuit that is years old that is now finally make it to court. So that could also play a role in it.
Definitely.
So it'll be fascinating to watch.
It will. So we have one last story here quickly for you. It's about the Oscars. So some of you, if you're like John, you were blissfully unaware of any issues. But if you were like me and you watched them, you know that it was on Hulu for the first time this year. And that was significant because it was also on ABC, but they hadn't been streamed live before. And there were some issues. So there were over 30,000 user-reported outages for Hulu in the first 15 minutes of the show. And if you looked at Twitter once during that time, it was obvious
People were not happy.
Yeah, there were lots of people that were reporting problems. Customer service reps were telling people to reboot and log in and reboot again. And then many people reported the show ending early before it was really over, which if you watch the Oscars, you know, like they saved the 3 biggest awards for the very end of the show to keep you sticking around until the end.
For movies, like 8 people have watched.
Right,
anyway.
yes, I agree. For movies no one's seen. But if you were watching it on Hulu, you got a "thank you for watching" error message saying that the event was over, even though it wasn't. So Disney, let me show you this screen. Disney issued, oops, sorry guys. It's hard for me to talk and control the screen at the same time, but I'm working on it. Disney issued a statement on the problems, and they said, quote, "This evening we experienced technical and live stream issues on Hulu, which impacted some Oscars viewers. We apologize for the experience. We'll make a full replay of the event available as soon as possible." Deadline actually had a pretty interesting article about this. And it used it to address a problem. And that's really why we wanted to bring this up, not because we think you guys all love the Oscars, but about live events being streamed, and could we have more issues like this as everything goes that way. So in this Deadline article, they spoke with about a dozen streaming experts about what happened during the Oscars, and including people that were familiar with Disney's tech stack, how it works behind the scenes. And they came back saying, quote, "The main consensus from those conversations was that even 2+ decades into the 21st century, streaming remains imperfect as the TV business transitions from its linear roots to an internet protocol future." And this part I thought was interesting. They said that 2 steps are required when you try to access a live stream: authentication, and that identifies you, and then authorization, which determines your permission, especially in regard to geography and payment. So live events are hard to predict, and that makes planning for, you know, your viewer numbers inexact. And the digital clock of streaming often clashes with the more fluid reality of programming that might end 43 minutes past the hour or at an odd interval. One senior exec at a major provider of streaming technology to a number of clients, although not Disney or Hulu, said that authorization remains a, quote, "choke point on the internet," end quote. And he compared the task of authorizing viewers to managing the entrance at a venue like a nightclub. He said the turnstile gets backed up. As a company providing a live stream, you have to think through that turnstile, and then it cascades. So just like at a real concert, if you have a bunch of people waiting to get in, and let's just imagine it's all general admission, and so everybody rushes in at once, right? Shoving against the doors, it can make it hard to keep the doors open, and it can make it hard to get people in and keep them in. So the Oscars aren't even really a massive event, honestly. People still do watch them. It was not a good look for Hulu and Disney. And as more live events go to streaming, we just wonder how long will this continue to be an issue, especially as you start thinking about live sporting events. So, and then, experiences like this might make some who are still using cable hesitant to ditch it. If, I know my parents would feel that way. If they had a bad experience with it, they are not going to want to switch.
Yeah, which they never will anyway. But
yeah, it's just clear that more money needs to be invested to iron out these issues. Netflix was able to broadcast its Christmas Day football games. We know a lot of people watched those, a lot more than the Oscars, and those went off pretty well. So
yeah. And one thing I would say is, are we as consumers going to be paying for those tech investments?
Yeah, exactly.
And we will.
And will it ever reach the reliability of cable?
Yeah. And a few other questions in the chat. I have read, Paul, that Netflix is believed to make a bid for Oscars in the future. I can't remember. It's within the next 2 or 3 years at ABC's that their contract with the Oscars is up. I can't remember exactly, but I do know it's in the very near future. And Netflix just streamed the SAG Awards, was it?
Yeah.
A week or two ago, so right before the Oscars. So they obviously are wanting to go this way. And another question of, do you think Netflix will go for more live sports content? I absolutely think they will. I read an article, several articles this week that was saying that Netflix is looking to spend at least $18 billion with a B on content this year, whereas other streamers are pulling back on their content investments. Netflix is going full steam ahead with their content spending, and I would anticipate to see Netflix to at some point this year become more active in trying to bring more live sports to their platform.
They're going to need all of those billions for that too.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what we have for this week. Thank you for sticking with us a bit longer. Again, just as a reminder, we won't be here next week as I'll be out of town, but we will be back on the 21st, so 2 weeks from today.
Yep. Thanks for hanging in with us, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
See you in a few weeks.
Yes. Happy streaming.